I am so excited to announce that iDriveAClassic is now sponsored by Adrian Flux, one of the UK's leading classic car insurers. If you're looking for classic car insurance, I've popped a link to Adrian Flux in the description box below. Hi guys, it's Steph from iDriveAClassic, and today I'm back with, well, they're not full size, but they're definitely cars that I think you'll be interested in. So to this side, I've got the Austin J40, and to this side, I've got a Tri-ang pedal car, which is based on the Jaguar E Type. I thought we'd do something different today and we'd have a look at these two. So whilst we're not going to get a test drive, I hopefully will give you some information, really interesting information in fact, about these two cars. So let's start off by looking at the Austin J40 pedal car. Our first car that we're looking at is the Austin J40. The Austin pedal cars were something special, and in fact, the story of how and why they were made is just as interesting as the cars themselves. Although the pedal cars were sold under the strapline, just like Father's car, the Austin J40 and other Austin pedal cars were made in a specially designed factory in Bargoed in South Wales. The area might seem an unusual choice for the factory, but the cars were actually a result of the Welsh government developing a subsidised scheme to ensure disabled coal miners were given a way to earn a living. The scheme was targeted at miners who suffered from a lung disease called, and I apologise because I'm going to definitely mess this pronunciation up, pneumoconiosis. Anyway, terrible disease that is the result of inhaling coal dust. And it meant that these miners weren't able to work down the mines anymore. And this was an era where, state support wasn't as substantial as it is now. So with that, the miners were given the opportunity to retrain, and as well as that, they were given special medical treatment. Now, for context with this, the factory opened in 1949, but the NHS was only founded in the summer of 1948. So specialised medical care was a massive deal and something that was so rarely provided for the everyday working man. Now, the first prototype for the Austin pedal cars was developed way back in 1946 and was named the Joy 1 prototype. Leonard Lord, who headed up Austin, asked 3 Austin workers to come up with a pedal car, with Alfred Asher's design based on the Austin 8 road car being the one that was chosen. Now, whilst the car didn't go into production, it did set the scene for the arrival of the J40 as we see it here today. Now, something that I always think about Austin cars, especially of this era, is that they're always incredibly well made, and as you'll be able to see with this car, and as we talk about it, you'll see that it didn't just stop at the full-size cars. These cars were really well made too. So with all the background work in place on the early cars, the factory opened in the summer of 1949. Now, they made the Austin J40 as we see here today, and the factory had an intended build target of 250 cars per week, but actually that was never met or exceeded. The cost of the cars was roughly £3,000 in today's money and went miles beyond the quality of pedal cars that we see today. The metal used to make the cars was from offcuts and scraps from the Austin Motor Car factory, and the cars were even built and painted to the same standard as the full-size cars, using the same paint and the same finishing techniques. Unfortunately, the lights and horn don't work on this example, but they would have worked from new, and as you can see, the bonnet lifts to reveal genuine spark plugs and leads. The wheels, as you'll have seen on walk round, are also detachable, and they were sold with real Dunlop tyres attached. Now, as you'll see in a minute, the boot also lifts, and on the boot floor is usually the chassis number, although on this example you'll see on the walk around it is near impossible to see. Although this model is fitted with a flying A as per the full-size cars, this was later removed for safety reasons. The cars were primarily intended to sell overseas in America, but quickly gained popularity in both Canada and Denmark, and just over 32,000 of these marvellous cars were produced before production ended in 1971. The cars are still hugely popular today as collector's items, and the car even has its own club who have members meets, and they even supply parts so you can keep these little things on the road. Now, with such care and attention to the build, good quality all round, a specialised race at Goodwood revival, and even an owners club to boot, it truly feels like the J40 did as it said on the tin, when it said, "Just like Father's car." Now, the factory didn't end in 1971, they carried on and they made the A-series engines and rocker covers until it was closed in 1999. This E-Type Jaguar Tri-ang pedal car is a little bit more simple and lacks the refinement of the J40, although it was a lot cheaper to purchase new and far more affordable for the average family to buy. This is a little newer and would have dated from some point in the 1960s. Now, I did a bit of digging online because whilst there's a lot of information for the J40, there's not so much information about these. And I found a really similar example, so it looks like this one is missing a few bits, including a windscreen chrome outline, and I think it would have had these little bits of glass or plastic in the front for the headlights. But, in my opinion, it's far better being here than heading off to landfill where it was headed for originally. The Tri-ang, of course, are famous for creating children's toys and were a brand of Lime Brothers, who at one point in time were the largest toy makers in the world. And in fact, many of your childhood favourites were sold under Tri-ang, including Scalextrics, Dinky Toys and Cindy. Although the horn doesn't work on this one, many of the pedal cars made by Tri-ang did have horns on them, which were made by Pifco, who seemingly made every electrical item under the sun at one point. Now, if you fancy one of these nowadays, or one of the J40s, well, a decent example is going to set you back at least 4 figures, so perhaps we're all better off sticking to the full-size cars. Now, before we say goodbye until next time, I thought we'd have a chat with the owner, Kev, because I've borrowed many cars off Kev, and when he offered me these, I thought it's a little bit different, but let's roll it into Christmas, because although we see this sort of thing in museums and on displays, it's very rare that you see them out in the wild and get a chance to film with them. So I thought I'd show you them, and I really hope you've enjoyed them. Now I'm going to hand over to Kev, and he's going to talk to you a little bit more about these.
Hi there, my name's Kevinhurst. First of all, wishing everybody a happy Christmas. Obviously it's very different this year. Hopefully next year will be better. These are my 2 little pedal cars. The first one is a 1962 Austin J40 that I bought for my son when he was year high. He's now year high, so he's never ridden the car, I'm glad to say, because it took me that long to restore it. Reason why I bought it is obviously I'm a car nut, Steph will say, but when I was a very small child I went on a roundabout ride, and both me and my sister rode in one of these specially adapted J40 pedal cars, and they had 2 steering wheels, so both my sister, who's 18 months older than me, we both sat in it, and I remember thinking, what a fantastic car. So that, and I like the shape of it, and it just reminded me of a proper traditional little car. They made this model from 1948 up until 1971, made at a British Leyland factory, a subsidiary factory that made rocker covers for A-series cars in Wales. It was made by disabled miners. Steph will tell you more about it than me because I've forgotten about it. I bought it from a chap in Bladen, which is up in the northeast, and it was in a very poor state. The body was rusty, incomplete, no headlights, etc., etc. We went up there with Thomas, my son, who was probably about 18 months old when I first bought the car. We went in a Rover estate thinking we'd have absolutely plenty of room to bring it back. Unfortunately, the car overtook the baby rubbish that we had to take with us at the time, and I had to strap it to the roof of the Rover. Fortunately, it managed to get back without being blown off the roof. Now, so that's that car. This one is a Tri-ang Jaguar E Type that I rescued, would you believe, from being thrown to the tip. somebody was going to get rid of it because they didn't think it was safe to use as a modern car with lead paint, etc. Anyway, I rescued it, done nothing to it, absolutely love it. I've lent it to mates, grandchildren who have used it and played with it as I would have done in the early 1970s.
Thank you so much for watching my video on these pedal cars. It's been really good fun to make. I learned so much when I was doing a bit of research for the video. Stuff that I didn't fully appreciate about these cars. You see these things in museums with plaques in front of them, but sometimes it's good to wheel them out and bring them to life with a video. So I really hope you've enjoyed this video, and I've really enjoyed showing you these cars. Massive thanks to my friend Kev for wheeling them out in this weather to show you. And until next time, take care and drive safely.